Inner Fight Endurance Q&A show 32. We are getting on at the time. This week, usual sponsors, they're going along the bottom. We've got a lot of questions. We asked for more questions to come in. People have delivered. So let's get straight to it.
We asked, you answered.
First question, mate. It's difficult. At Miho0109, do you think I can ever do it?
Well, without knowing what it is, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely agree with that one.
Okay.
Good. Next one at Hall_Rick85. How long would it take a beginner to get in shape to complete a 70.3?
That's a bit of an it depends one.
Definitely an it depends.
I think it depends what your definition of absolute beginner is. If you've never swum, biked or run before, I would say 6 months. If you're at a stage where you can ride for an hour and a half and run 10k and can swim, 3 months to complete.
Yeah.
If you want to go fast, it's longer.
Complete is the key word there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd say 12 weeks is a good start point for that. At Zach.Ragstagar. It's a pretty cool name.
Yeah.
Hey. Any tips on getting a sub 5 mile time? I think he means sub 5 minute mile time.
Yeah. Now, I got to be honest, Tom, you're a lot closer to this than I am, so I think you're probably better qualified than me to answer this one.
I would run our multi-duration run test.
Yeah.
Do a 400, a 1K and a 3K, and then look at how evenly you're matched there. So if you're quick over 3K but slow over 400 comparatively, then train your high-end speed, so your 400 speed, your 200 speed. If you're quick over a 400 but slower over your 3K, which is probably the one it will be for most people, then look at getting that speed work and making it more speed endurance.
Yeah.
So a few more 800s, some 1200s, but make it quality. Don't go into them absolutely gassed. Go into them with a good bit of freshness so that you can hit speed for the prolonged time, not just 200 and then dead.
Yeah. You see with a lot of guys there's a disconnect between either at the very, very short end or at the longer end, and whichever is weaker, you work that one more.
Yeah. The other one on that is work out your a sub 5 mile pace and then do some like 100 repeats at that select pace so you actually understand what that pace feels like. Yeah. Almost what you would do in the pool, really. Swim.
With a very short rest interval time.
Yeah. Good.
Awesome.
Next one.
Hope that helps.
At Chris Ho Baker, he's sent in a few. I've picked out the two ones that I think are more important to people. How important is it to do an aero scan to really nail training zones?
I think what we've got with Training Peaks now, I think it used to be absolutely critical, and now I don't think it is so much. I think if your FTP is accurate, Zone 2 is Zone 2. And I think you can use, we can do a MAF test at any time, and we can see the aerobic decoupling on any long steady state run and make a fairly accurate assessment to say whether you're training aerobically or not. If you wanted to go the extra mile, it might, the data points might be mildly different, but I think we've got enough with FTP and with Training Peaks data to make an accurate assessment. Yeah,
I think that's pretty decent. I'd also say depends how. You want accurate training zones, but how big are your training zones that you want to be at? If you want an absolute pinpoint of where your lactate threshold heart rate is, then Aeroscan is the one to use, or a lactate threshold heart rate test. But that means that every time you use those training zones or that point of going over your threshold, you will need to have been the same sleep the night before, the same nutrition, the same environment. That's why training zones are zones, so that you've got a bit of leeway, 5 or 6 beats here and there, or 10 watts here and there.
And I think, if you had a tested aerobic threshold of, say, 145 beats a minute, that doesn't mean to say that you've got to run at 145 the whole time. Like, 135, 140 might be absolutely fine. We're not training the absolute limit of everything the whole time. Otherwise, it doesn't allow for any sleep challenges, general fatigue, etc., etc. I would always want to be a little bit under it, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Good. Another question from the same guy at Tom. So based at me, based on your recent performance, how accurate is your lactate threshold? Run it in HRV for training. Hobeika loves lactate thresholds chat, doesn't he?
He's in Greece. I don't know why. I don't know why he's thinking about lactate threshold while he's on holiday. But anyway.
Yeah, my HRV for training threshold says that my threshold pace is 350 up to 359. So, judging on recent performances, it's pretty bang on actually.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because HRV for training uses a lot of algorithms based on the data that you feed it. And I have recently fed it an all-out marathon and a 70.3 runtime and all the training that goes with it. So for that reason, it will be accurate. If you are feeding it bits of data here and there of a long run you did where you haven't run for ages, or you're putting in random 5K jogs here and there, it's probably not going to be as accurate.
No.
So all these data platforms we use are only as accurate as the data you feed into it.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question at Humaid Al Gandhi. Is it true that the older you are, the more rest recovery your body needs? Flex?
As a general rule, I think that's a reasonable statement.
Yeah.
I think there's no question about it that as an individual, I recover not quite as well now as I did 10 years ago. However, there is a guy who recently ran quite a lot of marathons in not many days, who is not a young man anymore, and he's not here, so I'm going to be very careful. But has been publicly on social media. He's 40 years old, and his recovery protocols were absolutely spot on. And I would say, a 40-year-old with good recovery protocols recovers better than a 30-year-old with terrible recovery protocols. So if everything's on point, yes.
I would replace older with the less fit you are, the more rest and recovery your body needs.
Yeah.
Just happens as you get older, you get less fit. That's all it is. That's why the correlation is there. But yeah, as you say, if your recovery's on point, you'll recover better.
Yeah.
Good. Last question. We saved a bit of time for this one, so I think it's pretty good.
Here he is.
At Desert Hatter, which is Matt Jennison. Lactate threshold, pace, and heart rate. Which should I use to determine half marathon pace?
The first point I'm going to make with this, that I would not rely on Garmin to make an accurate assessment of your lactate threshold. So if we go back to the definition of that, it's the best speed or power that you can maintain for 60 minutes, okay? And also would be correlated to heart rate. And now I saw Matt's Instagram post, and it was suggesting that his lactate threshold was 431 per K. And given that he ran a 10K in 41 minutes, I think there's no way that can be right. So what I would do, Matt, is listen to your coach, read what's written in Training Peaks for Friday, and follow that, and I think you'll be just fine.
The thing all about paces and the heart rate, and if it is being taken from Garmin as an algorithm, it's all based on algorithms.
Yeah.
So
it's a guess.
It is a guess. I would, if I'm looking at lactate threshold, I will only really look at heart rate.
Yeah.
But then on race day, your heart rate's going to be a little bit more elevated. So you will know from your data around what your tipping point is.
Yep.
Pace, you can be running into a headwind, you could be running with a tailwind, you could be running up a hill, it could be very hot, so you can't really come to a conclusion on that. But heart rate, through enough data of training, like when you're under it and when you're over it.
Yeah.
And that you can use that. So if you fly off in the first 10 minutes and your heart rate flies over, say your threshold's 165 and you're sitting at 170, you can kind of say to yourself, okay, need to pull this back under a little bit. But
in general, if your lactate threshold is your best 60-minute pace or heart rate or whatever, given the likely duration of a half marathon, it is a sub-lactate threshold level effort. So, we've got a plan. I think that's going to work really well. But if you're, for anything more than an hour, you can't expect to go faster than your 1 hour pace.
Yeah. Good. Right, that is a load of questions covered on this week's Q&A. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week. See you then.
Congratulations to all the guys that raced on Friday.